In less than 2 years, how does a man go from being one of the world's most adored and inspirational fighters to losing most of his fans? How come we were so taken aback by the notorious Tyson Fury's powerful mouthpiece, trash talk, and social media outbursts, and then realized a short while later that he was annoying? Allow me to pique your curiosity and delve into the tale of the Gypsy King's fall from grace and the dwindling of his fan following. It all began towards the end of 2021. Tyson was riding high. He'd just wrapped up the Deontay Wilder trilogy. It was time to take on a mandatory opponent, notably the extremely vocal Dillian Whyte, who was finally gearing up for his chance at the world title. It was a huge heavyweight fight that the boxing public was lapping up. Then came the tough negotiations. Tyson proposed a mere 20% to Whyte, who was unimpressed and demanded more. Despite the rough start, they eventually reached an agreement that ended up with Whyte receiving almost $8 million. Fans weren't used to seeing this side of Tyson Fury in negotiations, especially now that he was back on top as WBC world champion. He declared himself the biggest attraction in the sport. The fight was set, and we all waited with bated breath. Finally, Fury was returning to the UK, ready to face Whyte at the impressive Wembley Stadium on the canvas. After the fight, Tyson was resolute in his decision to retire, and this was confirmed in his interview with Piers Morgan after defeating Whyte. Tyson Fury's time in the ring was over. But come on, we all know Fury's a bit of a wind-up merchant. We all knew he'd be back. Lo and behold, he declared a return to the ring a few months later during the build-up to AJ versus Usyk 2. Now that everyone was focused on AJ, the timing was ideal, in typical Tyson Fury fashion. He started to call out Chisora and was even talking about facing Manuel Charr. As soon as he talked about making a return, he was retiring again, all in the space of a couple of weeks. Boxing fans were baffled at his constant flip-flopping. Regardless, though, AJ was beaten for a second time by Usyk in a masterclass performance from the Ukrainian, leaving AJ a little bit aggravated, possibly even concussed. As we got to September, Fury decided his self-imposed retirement was officially over. So, the obvious fight to make for us fans was Fury versus Usyk. Finally, we would get a 4-belt undisputed fight. He was gracing us with his return for this legacy-defining fight. Right? After what had been a tough year for him personally with his country at war, Usyk wanted a bit of rest after his 12-round victory over Anthony Joshua. Fury started waffling about Usyk not wanting to fight him and how he was a blown-up middleweight, you know, the usual Fury spiel. But we knew Usyk would eventually be ready. A stay-busy fight was going to be needed before the undisputed, and to everyone's surprise, Fury called out AJ. But there were stipulations. Fury offered 60-40, which was pretty fair. Then he wanted it in November, which looked to be a bit soon for AJ after the punishing 12-round Usyk fight. Then came his deadlines, which seemed to change daily. The Gypsy King started to talk up other opponents like Chisora or Manuel Charr. As soon as it looked like it was coming together, it fell apart. There was real disappointment among British boxing fans in Fury's behavior, and regardless of whether you think Fury was to blame, AJ, Eddie Hearn, or even Frank Warren, everyone had the same thought, and therefore a complete headache for everyone involved. And if that wasn't enough, his next fight was announced: Derek Chisora. There was bitterness and disappointment among fans. It was a trilogy fight that no one asked for and nobody wanted. Why was the self-anointed best heavyweight on the planet fighting an old Del boy that he'd already beaten twice fairly easily? After a widely predicted beatdown that seemed to go on longer than it should have, it appeared it was just a ploy to give his mate a payday. At least the Usyk fight would be next, right? Wrong. Usyk's saga had been like a soap opera. Saudi Arabia was always the front runner, and it should have been smooth sailing with the amount of money they have always been willing to pay fighters. But it appeared that even the Saudis got tired of Fury's antics after he priced himself out of negotiations, leaving Wembley seemingly the only place it could happen. Tyson seemed to do more negotiating on social media and began these new negotiations with what was considered by most as a fairly unfair 70-30 split, which Usyk accepted. Then the rematch was an issue, and after that, rematch split was an issue. I will give Tyson his dues. Usyk was stubborn as well. but to nowhere near the level of Fury. As the days got closer to the predetermined April 29th date, and after a multitude of issues and hissy fits, Usyk kept his pride and walked away from the negotiations, allowing the Gypsy King to claim he was not to blame at all, providing us with another social media video slating the Ukrainian. Unfortunately for Tyson, the fans were having none of it. Another huge Fury fight had once again fallen through, and his credibility was now at an all-time low amongst his fanbase. Simon Jordan declared on TalkSport that it had come to light soon after that the Saudis were planning a mega showdown between the four stars of the heavyweight scene, Alexander Usyk, Deontay Wilder, and Anthony Joshua, all confirmed their interest in discussions. But as usual, Fury pissed on all our chips by trying to downplay it. He eventually went back to the Saudis, with begging bowl in hand, and arranged an exhibition fight at the end of October with former UFC heavyweight champ Francis Ngannou. Everyone assumed this would be a meaningless tick-over to keep Tyson busy and get him paid. Nobody expected Francis to do much in the boxing ring due to his fairly limited boxing skills, but Francis had other ideas and shocked the world by knocking Tyson down and performing admirably, taking Fury to the final bell. It felt that for as many fans as Francis won, Tyson lost that night. Only his most rabid sycophants thought he'd performed well. This performance was the kick up the arse that Fury needed, and the undisputed fight with Usyk was promptly made for February 2024. Now Fury hasn't lost his entire fan base. He's still got plenty of casuals, and his sycophants are, of course, staying loyal. But he's lost the patience of an entire set of boxing fans who, politics or not, just want to watch the big fights. A fighter, a great talker, and a great showman, but his mouth, which has been on overdrive for the past couple of years, has got him into this mess. It's come to the point now where no one, and I mean no one, can believe a word he says, and he's even being beaten at his own game of trash talking, with Team Usyk constantly laughing at him. There is a consensus that, instead of hard legacy-defining fights, he's only looking for the easiest fights for the most amount of money, which is a damaging accusation to his legacy. But we should never forget what this man came back from both physically and mentally to beat the hardest hitter in the heavyweight division. Also, let's not forget he dethroned the former king of an era, Vladimir Klitschko. We can only hope that the narrative flips and he returns gloriously in February with that almighty showdown against Usyk to try to prove he is the greatest of his era. Maybe then all the pissing around on social media will be forgotten. Only time will tell whether Tyson Fury can cement his place as lineal and undisputed heavyweight champ. But if he does that, I'm sure he will win back the hearts and respect of the boxing community.